Hey, thanks for joining us today. Wherever you're joining from, at home, on the couch, at work, just thanks for joining. We have a very special guest today, coming all the way from Baltimore County, a dynamic woman. There are many people running, but of course, I wanted to give this young sister an opportunity to describe her platform, to talk about her message, because the thought is important for the voters to know, who's going to be on the ballot. So, with that being said, Jennifer White, if you want to introduce yourself, give them your little elevator pitch, tell them who you are.
Yes, of course, and thank you so much for the opportunity to share with you and just simply have a conversation. So again, my name is Jennifer White. I am a candidate for state delegate in District 10, and if anything, have had the pleasure to be in Owings Mills Newtown community for 7 years now or more. And it's really been great to serve on my local homeowners association, getting involved in many community organizations as well. I'm ready to continue my service in District 10 and focus on issues that range from health, public safety, and education, just to name a few. I'm a public health professional by training, and I've been in public health and nonprofit service for more than 10 years, and currently serve as a senior policy and community engagement officer at the Horizon Foundation in Howard County. And so I'm not new to the work, not new to the space, and have the pleasure to be a part of the District 10 Unity team with Speaker Adrian Jones, Delegate Ben Brooks, and N. Scott Phillips. And so together, I know we will make significant change for our community and get the results that our district deserves. So again, glad to be here and connect with you today, Martin.
Boy, I appreciate it. Of course, thank you very much for, being on. And, one of the things that I wanted to ask you was, it's not a typical question you probably hear, or it may not be, but what is your why?
Yeah.
As far as running, everyone has a why. What is your why?
So really, it comes down to service. I witnessed my grandparents and my parents really serving our community and really giving all that they had to make someone else's life better. I would oftentimes be with them in tow. And I was also grew up in the church. So my grandfather was a minister. So I was constantly working in the vineyard with them, whether if it was picking up church members to go to church, providing that hot meal. My parents are also retired public school educators. So my mother was an accompanist. So oftentimes for concerts, we either had to provide the uniforms for the
Sure.
students. And I went to music camp and had to help students who followed behind me to give them the uniforms as well. So we were always in service to our community. And from that example, it really ignited my passion to serve and make change. And so that's why I'm running. And that's why I've always been interested in really giving back and really serving and working with and for a community to get the things that we need.
Okay. Hey, I could applaud that. I appreciate that answer. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you was, just looking into your race, I only knew of a few people personally, right? But then when I actually looked it up on paper, your race looks almost as crazy as District 23, over here in Prince George's. You have 12 candidates.
Whew.
You have 12 candidates, including one who, well, not including one who withdrew, right? And two of
Right,
those being Republican candidates. So,
right.
null and void to an extent, right? So,
It's a
so you
crowded
you
field. We know.
yes, yes. You have 10. You have 10. I mean, no, I was shocked by this. For
Yeah.
someone who follows the different races, I maybe thought there was five. I maybe thought there was five, but to hear that there was 10 candidates, so and so basically, where did this come from? Is there opening of seats, or are people retiring? What exactly is happening this cycle to make so many people run in District 10?
Well, I'll just say this as someone who did emerge back in 2018. I think it's exciting. I always applaud anyone who chooses to put their name in the race. It really takes a lot of courage, and by all means, I'm certainly being tested, and this is quite a learning experience, I will say. But as it relates to the district and the current, what the lay of the land looks like, we know that our dear Senator Dolores Kelly will not be seeking reelection. She's been a dear friend, soror, and mentor of mine, who
Okay.
recruited me to run. And again, she will be moving on and not seeking reelection. And so Delegate Ben Brooks has uh, is eyeing the Senate seat.
Sure.
And so he's running for Senate, as well as Delegate Jay Jalisi, who's also running for Senate. And I believe he filed on the last
Yeah.
day on
I
April.
won't give you my opinion there. I won't give you
No,
my opinion, but you saw it from my head shake. You saw it from my
you're
head
right.
shake. So
I hear you. I hear you and see you. But again, and we have Speaker Adrian Jones. And so again, there's two seats open for delegate and one seat open for Senate. And so we see that the field is crowded, vying
I
for
am.
those seats. And so it's real exciting. I will say at one point in time there was five, and
There
now
was
there
five.
it is doubled.
Yes, and I think there's two things to hit on there, right? One is I do applaud everyone for running and hopping in the race. It takes a certain amount of courage to hop in the race. But with that being said, just because we applaud you for being out there doesn't mean like you deserve to be out there because there's some people you're like, wait, why are you running for this position?
Yeah,
You
right.
don't even know. You don't even know how many delegates are in the house. You
Right.
don't even know how to pass a. So these small things,
Right.
right? Like
Yeah.
I will agree that like some people talk a big game, but like knowing how policy works, knowing how to legislate, knowing how to coalition build,
That's
will
right.
really help you when you get to Annapolis or wherever you get in your legislative career.
That's right.
So
That's right. And it's important, one of the things that I value, and when I'm on the doors, I tell people it's about voting for an agenda, right? And making sure that you are supporting candidates that not only understand the process, that can work and build in coalition, but have the experience to get the job done. And so, I think that you are exactly right. That it requires courage as well as a level of understanding and a foundation that really makes you a prime candidate to step in and serve in this role.
okay. Hey, I mean, I will say that you are talking the game, right? So you have been around in the space. But
Oh yeah,
I will always be real with you. And one of the questions I asked you before, and I still want to see your answer, because of course, you can't sell me smoke and mirrors. You gotta give me the real.
that's right.
I know Adrian Jones. I believe she's fair, but I also know that she's a part of the Democratic establishment.
Hmm.
With that being said, you being on a ticket with Adrian, how are you going to differentiate yourself and kind of be your own person if and when you get to Annapolis?
Absolutely. I mean, for me, it has always been about the people and serving the district, right? I again, I am a Democrat, and so I also understand the importance when it comes to certain issues to stand firm and in solidarity with each other. But I also believe in making sure that we are making the decisions that best represents and reflects our community and gives our district what it is that they need. And so I know that I'm willing to provide those perspectives and to share those insights and to make sure that we are creating the space for our community to be a part of that decision making process. And so I'm
And
willing to challenge. I'm willing to provide that additional perspective, to provide that new and fresh those fresh ideas, to make sure that we can work as a team. And so I believe that our team collectively, while we may have different levels of experience, I do believe that we will be able to truly represent the voice and the values of our district And in those cases where we need to go a little further, I know that I'm the type of person that will be that advocate. I mean, I do
So
organizing in the field already. I'm ready to push.
right now, you're telling me if it's best for the people, you're willing to buck the speaker. You know,
I mean,
and you're not worried about your leadership position or being written off the slate next time.
I wouldn't say buck the speaker in that
Well,
regard,
well,
but
well, 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 well you understand. You have, bucking the speaker would mean standing up for the people. You know, no matter what leadership says, right? So it would be something similar to like what Gabriel Silvera would do, right? So he doesn't care the ramifications that are going to come back on him based on the way he votes. You know, so that's what I'm more so speaking of.
right. So I hear what you're saying, and I think that there is a way in which that we approach, conversations and situations to make sure that, that we're able to be united, right? And I think that that is important. And so, for me, especially as a new member, I want to make sure that I'm able to build those relationships, but that I'm also
Sure.
able to be held accountable to the people, because 4 years later, it's the people that are going to decide, paired with making sure with our leadership that we're able to be in position to ensure that the needs of our district are met. And so I think it's about striking the right balance, not to be in a way where it is one-sided, but making sure that there is the appropriate balance to work in collaboration, to work unified with our leadership, but also making sure that our community's needs are front and center, right? And so, I mean, again, as I said, I'm ready to stand firm, but I'm also,
I just want to know how firm. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Because
yeah, no,
that's the thing. Am I gonna have a fighter? Because I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't see the speaker as a fighter. You know what I mean? I see that she has some liberal progressive values, but I don't necessarily see her as a fighter. And of course she's an institution, right? So she necessarily shouldn't be a fighter. But that's why, of course, you being where you could be, I would want to make sure that you are willing to fight. And I've heard from certain people who were young in the legislature that they didn't want to vote a certain way because leadership would have looked at them differently, or their colleagues would have looked at them differently, and then they become pawns, right? So then they become pawns, and now they're voting for things. They're not reading bills. You know what I mean? They're just taking people's word for it. And you know just as well as anybody else, probably, that a lot of people don't read their bills, right? So we sometimes have to hold people accountable for reading their own bills. You
yeah, I
know,
mean,
so
and I will say this, I do believe that our speaker is a fighter, because while, there are certain fights that we may see and fights that we don't see. And so I think it's important to make sure that we are, that we are aware that there are sometimes the conversations behind closed doors or in certain sessions that we may not always be privy to. And so I'm appreciative of the direction in which that she has gone in, and that we are now in a process of beginning to implement, the Maryland Police Accountability Act, right? We had a package of reproductive,
that
bills
that,
that
that
she put
accountability
forward.
act. Let's not that it was a little watered down, but we're not gonna
Well, I mean, and
we
again,
we 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 not gonna go on that.
oh yeah, no,
We
no, no.
gonna
But
keep it
I'm just
high. We gonna
I'm
keep it
just
high.
simply saying that, we have much further to go. Absolutely. But I think that there is the fight that is there, and collectively together we'll be able to take it even further. And so I just simply believe that it's about striking the right balance, but also still making sure that we are firm in making sure that we're serving the people. And so, to your point about reading the bills, I know I spend a lot of time reading
Yes.
those bills inside and out. So, but I hear you. I think that there is it's important. And I've even asked some of my fellow Emerge sisters who are currently in elected office, how do you balance that, right? And at the end of the day, I think it is making what I have, witnessed and heard from our conversations, that it is about that balance. But at the end of the day, it's about making sure that you are serving your districts, and it's about your values, right? I know for me, it's making sure that I stick to my guns. As I said, I grew up in The church faith is very important to me. I know right from wrong, and I want to make sure that at the end of the day, that it's about doing what is best and what is equitable for your community.
I amen to that. Amen to that. And I'm someone who's worked in the legislature, so of course I just ask you these questions for you to keep in mind, because I want to make sure that whoever goes there, whoever is new,
That's right.
they do work with the coalition, but they have their own independence.
That's right.
And I think that's important for anybody, even especially someone coming in new. You know
Oh
what I
yeah.
mean? So
Because you are exactly right. These things will come up, and it's the question is, what will you do when you are at that time when you're being pressed with these decisions and choices? What will you do, and how will you stand? And so, for me, I'm going to stand in truth and stand in
absolutely.
that, and that is what will guide us forward.
So what is something your district needs? Like what is something that you would work on legislatively for your district?
Yeah. So, and again, I'm hearing a lot on the doors. There's so many different issues, and it ranges from trash and recycling, I meet a lot of, pro-choice voters too. Public safety is one that comes up a lot. And we've had a
Sure.
lot of conversations, in our community, related to public safety. And so, another issue that I think is really critical, especially within our education, but also in our community at large, relates to mental and behavioral health. While the
Oh,
pandemic was raging, mental health was raging in the background long before the
yes.
pandemic. And so, for me, there's a lot of great things that are already happening. We have a Greater Baltimore Regional Integrated Crisis System, with more than $45 million being invested in our region, to really expand our crisis response. We also know that the 988 National Suicide Prevention and Behavioral Health Hotline will go live nationally in July, and we were able to secure more than $10.5 million to support those call centers in that effort. But we got a lot more things to do. Mental health is one of the top issues when it comes to our health and well-being in Baltimore County, that I think we have to do more of, and make sure that we have greater investment, especially when it comes to crisis stabilization centers, and
Sure.
making sure that our kids, thinking about our kids, our educators, have what it is that they need, given all that they endured during this pandemic, and being virtually in virtual classrooms. And so, that's one of the things that I often see, not only in the data, but also here, when it comes to community spaces and the like. So it's been a growing concern.
And there's a lot of great things you highlighted. One was the mobile crisis units, and
Mhm.
the different responses for the mental health patients. One of the things that I would advocate for is, have you ever been to Shepherd Pratt?
I've never been, but they are a partner of ours within the work that I do in Howard County. So I'm familiar with Shepherd Pratt.
Shepherd Pratt is probably highly regarded, right?
Hmm.
Highly regarded. I would tell you firsthand that Shepherd Pratt, um, I just felt like they were just taking state money in some regards and not really helping people.
Mm.
And the reason I say this is because I've known individuals who went there. They weren't going to therapy sessions. They weren't having the therapies. They didn't have any recreation, anything in the game room. The thought is like they literally were just roaming in and out of their room, medicated, non-medicated, until they left, until the doctor deemed them well enough to leave. And the reason I say that is because from that experience, what I really believe is like it's a revolving door. They
Mm.
make you just well enough to get home, and you get sick again, then you're back in a mental health hospital, or you're back at Shepherd Pratt. So it's like a revolving door, because like I would really encourage you to visit one of these centers because, at the state level, that would be one of the things that I do is investigate these different mental institutions. Because for one, you got to understand that like the people who are in there sometimes they don't have the means to actually speak up and talk about what's going on with themselves or
Yeah.
or the abuse that's taking place, or the treatment that they're not receiving.
Right.
Because the thought is like just a lot of paperwork. Oh, this doctor signed off on this. He said this happened. But I think that there needs to be more oversight on that. And if you ever heard it here, I say check out Shepherd Pratt. Um, and look into it. Look into it because I don't think that that's just Shepherd Pratt. I'm sure that's other institutions, not just in Maryland, but in other places.
Yeah.
That are receiving money and kickbacks and not really providing the best treatment, but are getting acknowledged and recognized.
Yeah.
So
And the one thing I will say is that from a institutions and systems perspective, right? Like we recognize that there has to be, more done when it comes to training and care of our providers, making sure that, the when it comes to treatment, when it comes to the type of care that is provided, that we're making sure that everyone is treated in an equitable way and that their needs are met. And so when it comes to, addressing cultural bias and making sure that we have providers that reflect the communities that we serve, building a greater pipeline of providers who are able to better care and provide, culturally appropriate and sensitive, care to our population, and also recognize that even when it comes to mental and behavioral health, there may be other needs that need to be addressed. And so what are the other type of wraparound support services, whether if it's housing and not having stable housing, or whether if it's related to food or other issues that may be in the mix that need to be addressed. And so, I think it's about seeing that person within a larger context and making sure that we have providers that are, trained in a way, and we are creating and maintaining institutions that are able to provide that level of care, and hold them accountable, because I think that when it comes to our
that
entire,
hold the accountable part is that was serious. It's that hold the accountable part.
yeah,
Because as
yeah,
you said, you can do the trainings, this, that, and the third. But if they're
yeah,
not providing that care, we need to pull that funding. Because
it's
we,
about
we, we know that
accountability
a
and
lot of them,
enforcement.
they're getting paid per bed, the same way prisons do. They're getting paid per inmate. So, yeah.
So I think we have to take a look at that, because honestly, when it comes to inequities, it's not just the policies and the practices that continue to perpetuate those things, it's institutions that continue to keep these things going. And so in order to address these things across the board, and I'm not picking on any particular provider or
Oh,
institution, I think
hey,
it's
I,
just
I
across
was
the
just calling
board.
that one out personally,
Yeah, no,
but
I hear
there's
you.
probably others. There's probably others.
Yeah, but I just think, and when we look at our healthcare system, we know that there are mass inequities there. It and so I think that there is a need to, in order for us to make systemic change, we have to also look at our institutional level policies and practices and the culture therein that is contributing to a lot of these health disparities that we see in our communities.
Understood. Understood. And when you look at this past legislative session, what were your two favorite things to come out of there? As far as like what are the two things you were really hoping passed and it passed? Um,
Yes.
what are you looking at?
Yeah, so my first thing, and again, this is tied to some of the work that I do, but I was following and was very excited about the Healthy Babies Equity Act. What
Okay.
brought me into public health was really the injustice when it came to infant mortality and other maternal and child health outcomes. And that's why I went to Hopkins and pursued my master's in reproductive, perinatal, and women's health. I really wanted to better understand the relationship between institutional racism and maternal and child health outcomes. And so the Healthy Babies Act, which was sponsored by Delegate Pena Melnick, who we know is a outstanding champion, and now is the chair of HGO, and Senator Clarence Lamb on the House side. And that would expand the Maryland Medical Assistant Program to ensure that pregnant moms are able to receive prenatal care regardless of their immigration status. And so it provides greater access, because we know prenatal care and postpartum care, and it includes postpartum care as well, is critical in making sure that baby has a healthy start and that mom is also cared for. So that was one bill that I was really excited about. And then another bill, again in the line with reproductive health, which is my passion, was the Abortion Care Access Bill. I had the pleasure of testifying on that bill before the Senate Finance Committee. And again, it was able to move forward. I know Delegate Ariana Kelly was sponsor on the House side, and Senator Dolores Kelly was the sponsor on the Senate side. And so I had the pleasure to support that bill in a personal capacity, in order to make sure that we have the necessary qualified providers to provide safe and accessible abortion care in our state. And so those are two of the bills that I really cared about, because it really focused on my areas of interest and my passion for public health.
Hey, I love Pina Melnick.
Yes.
Delegate Pina Melnick. She is my delegate.
Yes.
The people's
All right.
champ. And if you know anything, she does a lot of bills around reproductive health, around maternal health. You know, she's really just a healthcare champion.
Yes, indeed. So glad that she is now the chair.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. She is the new HCO chair, so that's big time. And you know, those are some great bills. And I will say, the bill that I'm most excited about, probably, you know, still in line with health, is Senator Augustine's bill, the one that provides, you know, dental assistance to
Yes,
people on Medicaid.
that was
You know, I
critical.
think that that's a game changer for someone, you know, who knows personally how expensive dental care is. You know, it could be a real game changer for someone to actually now receive dental care when they weren't able to. And from talking to Senator Augustine, we're behind a lot of other states. A lot of other states have already, you know, made the addition to, you know, put it under the umbrella.
Right.
So
now we just need doula services by Medicaid.
yes, hey, I mean, what was it? Senator Ellis had a bill this year, so I
Yeah.
mean, you know, it's coming, right? It's
Yeah,
coming.
yep. Like I
And
said, you know, we take steps here. We just continue to build, and you know, I believe we'll get there.
and it's going to make a big change for Black women. Of course, you know,
Yeah.
maternal health being so high, and you know, Black doctors not taking, you know, our women seriously, our brothers and sisters, or our sisters. I'm sorry, our sisters seriously. But yeah, and so before I get you out of here, I wanted to ask you a couple quick questions.
All right.
One, what is your favorite, Pepsi or Coke?
Neither. I don't drink.
You're a water drinker. I got you. Hey,
Yes.
keeping the skin clear. Hey,
Oh,
we
yes.
we
Mm-mm.
appreciate it. We
Yeah.
appreciate it. And you're doing your liver some good.
Yeah.
Um,
That's right. That's right.
the next question: who is your philosopher? Like favorite philosopher? Who are you looking up to?
Philosopher.
Or
Like,
philosophy that you like to follow. You know.
well, I would say that of Christ. You know, like
Hey,
we
okay. Hey,
we want to.
that's fair. That
You
that
know,
is fair.
I think that that's an amazing philosophy and an example to model ourselves after.
Absolutely.
You know.
And you know, this is a quick yes or no. Are you going to be voting in favor of legalization of cannabis? You know, when
Yes.
it hits the ballot. Okay, just
Yeah.
had to make
Shoot, we
sure.
got
That was I had to hit it on a little bit. You know, had to make sure. Well, well,
absolutely.
well, I appreciate you. So please tell people how they can get connected with you and stay connected with you. Of course, July 19th. You know, you got a race coming up, so give
Yes.
people your information.
Absolutely. My website is www.votejenniferwhite.com. You can follow me on Facebook at Vote for Jennifer White, and on Twitter and Instagram, it is Vote for Jen, Jen White. So looking
Oh,
forward to connecting with you all. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity, and looking for other conversations here. This was a lot of fun.
yes, absolutely. I appreciate you, Jennifer, and good luck down there in D10.
All right. Thanks so much. You take care.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
Okay, we have our next guest coming right up. So that was a very interesting candidate from District 10, from the other side, from Baltimore County. And our very next guest, he was a fellow classmate of mine at the oldest HBCU in the state of Maryland, BSU. So, Clarence, thanks for joining us. As I said, my fellow BSU fan, BSU alumni.
Dog. Yeah.
Yes. And of course, for people who don't know you outside of my BSU family, tell people a little bit about you.
Yeah, man. So because I'm proud of this, you know what I mean? I'm a dad, right? So I'm a father, first, but I'm a communicator. I'm a strategic communicator who has gone from being a more traditional communicator to being a more digital minded and content produced communicator, right? And not necessarily for content production, but more so like connecting dots in quality production. So I've been very media minded, and so I am on my way to become a media mogul. Yeah,
Hey, that's huge. On your way to become a media mogul,
yeah,
and so just a couple titles. I know you're a father. I know
mm,
you're in the media.
mm,
One of the things I saw is you're chief of staff
yeah, yes,
at a
yes.
media firm or something. So
So
tell us more about that.
so actually, I'm actually the chief operating officer for just one PR. And essentially, I deal with a lot of the day to day mundane things, right? Making sure that the strategies on point, making sure that I'm managing the interns, making sure that everyone has their social media handles, like just making sure that the machine runs really well. And it works perfectly for me because it allows me to kind of like manage without needing to actually do things, right? Making sure that all the things are put into place. And that
Okay.
frees me up to be able to put that creative energy in other spaces and places. But we got Broccoli Fest coming up, so we'll be there for Broccoli Fest.
Okay.
um, Making sure that we are not just celebrating the culture, but also connecting and figuring out ways of how we can keep moving forward. Um, and so yeah, man, being a chief operating officer or COO, how big that may sound, right? But it's really just a manager, a general manager, just make sure that things are going really well. And it's been a blessing, man, to be able to experience that because I've been seeing a lot of things I haven't seen before.
Sure.
So we was school for political science or government. Um, After that, I went to pursue my master's in strategic communications and public relations because I felt like the news was more important than what we really gave it. Like I feel like what we see on the images that we see are way more important because I think that's what guides us to do what we want to do, right? And so with me pursuing that, I've really started to say, yo, I really want to focus on this media shit. Excuse me, this media stuff. I really want to, I, I really want to start like really doing something different and for people. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't believe I'm here to make money. Me personally, I don't believe I'm here to make money. I mean, for like selfish reasons, right? Like, I feel like I have a mission, and that
Yeah.
mission is to help guide.
And
Yeah.
and I feel as though, we were history and government majors,
Hmm.
or political science in what you would call it. But I
Hmm.
feel as though like media, PR, and politics, they really do go hand in hand. So even though you didn't, formally, start that off in undergraduate, you
Hmm.
did proceed with it in masters, and I think they
Hmm.
really complement each other.
Bro, it really started with the whole Black Lives Matter movement. I was during that time after Trayvon, I was realizing that a lot of people didn't understand the actual issues. They were just regurgitating talking points that they saw on the news. And I'm like, wow, That's really influential. That these people think that they know what to talk about because they heard someone else say it, because they're on TV. And I'm like, that's dangerous, right? Like, we have to be able to think about these things on our own. We can't just take talking points from MSNBC or wherever and just go with it. No, you got to break that down. You really have to understand what it is, because there's a lot of nuances to these things. And once I realized that, like, people were so like enamored, they could just take whatever they heard and say, "Oh, this is the truth." I said, "Wow, this is the vein I need to go into, because I feel like I can affect the waters with good things." I mean, I think a lot of people think of that, especially like in politics. People go, "Oh, I'm gonna change the world. I'm gonna do this," and they get in, it'll be hard as hell. And they're like, "Man, this is," and they get burnt out fast. So I don't make it seem like I'm thinking about this one like I'm gonna save the world, but I definitely do think that there's a way to put the medicine in the candy. And fam, this is a republic. We got to do this all together. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got to do it together. And how difficult that may be, individuals like you, individuals like me, William, helping to connect these dots humbly, right? I'm sorry, I'm going on a tangent. My bad. Yeah, I'll let you rock.
No, I was here with you. But one of the things I will say that you hit on, very well, was about informing people and spreading the message, right? So, I have this podcast. I've done shows in the past, and the main concept for me was trying to make politics relatable and digestible.
Yep, digestible.
Because, for someone like me, I've been in the political space for over 10 years, so like I understand the nomenclature. I understand, the policy aspect, how to read
the
policy,
behind the scenes thing. Yeah,
sure, exactly. So the thought is like I try to simplify things, make it as simple as possible, so your everyday person can understand. Hey, is this something that you would like? Is this something that you wouldn't like? You guys are smart enough to make decisions for yourselves.
Is my tagline for Capital Conscious Media is making media more digestible.
Oh,
so it's funny, right? It's funny that you just brought that up, because it's like, you're right. We have all these things coming at us. We got, video. We got all these different things that are, penetrating our mind. It's like, but how do you sort that out? Like, how strong is your filter, right? And that's how you become more digestible, right? Like you have to break it down so you can digest it. Kind of like a body, right? You can't just
absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like, once people find the value in the things that they may call BS, like the news, people go, "Oh, I hate watching the news. It's so negative." Well, if you don't watch the news,
I just say don't watch one news.
Right.
You gotta watch multiple news.
Right.
You know what I mean? So for someone who just watches MSNBC, or someone who just watches CNN, or someone who just watches Fox, you know what I mean? Like, you're not going to get the unabashed news. You're going to get, what they want you to get. You're going to get it dressed up for the most part.
Exactly.
So you have to look for some alternative
because this is
sources.
attached to it.
Absolutely. You got to look for some alternative sources. You got to look for international sources. It's crazy how many rich people own publication companies, right? Just throwing that out there, because the thought is that, they can control the narrative around the stories that are going to, talk about them.
So I feel like a lot of times what we see is the tip of the iceberg, right? For metaphor's sake, like, there's so much stuff behind that line of water of the complexities of what's really happening, right? So, like you're saying, how many people own publications? How many people own those markets to be able to communicate with people, and what are they communicating, right? Which is why I think Byron Allen, he's a media mogul, right? He's buying up radio stations, he's doing these things to be able to have those spaces so people can be able to I don't like the word narrative, but they be able to push their, to be able to progress media wise, right?
Yeah,
like you have to have those venues or those opportunities to be able to do that, right? Because if you don't have anything, you just don't. You know what I mean?
You don't get airtime, and we know how important airtime is. And the thought is, it's just how the airtime is used, right? Like, I'll use an example that I commonly use about media bias. So let's think about Trayvon Martin, right? Let's think about back to the Trayvon Martin case, and this is a similar thing that I always bring up. So we have Trayvon Martin, and we have, what is his name, Brock Turner. I think his name is Brock Turner. He was the Stanford swimmer who was accused of I forget the terminology. I think it was called outer course. Is how his lawyer and stuff tried to frame it. So,
Oh, he was like too rich or something, like to understand or something like that.
yes,
Yeah.
he
Okay.
was
Go
too
ahead.
rich to understand. His dad
Yeah.
had wrote a letter to the judge,
Right.
probably
Right.
one of his big donors.
Mm-hmm.
But beside that, the thought is like the media really played him up as like a boy, who made a mistake. He shouldn't be punished. For one, let's be clear. This is someone we were talking about. I believe he was at an upper level,
Mm-hmm.
college student. So I believe he was like 11. I mean, not 11. I believe he was in his junior or senior year of
Yeah, like
college.
upperclassmen. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the upperclassman, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he was a boy, but commonly we see that in media when things happen to, people of non-color. A lot of times the media tries to make them younger or more innocent than they might be. But then you have Trayvon Martin,
Right.
who was under the age of 18. He was a minor. And the thought is he was targeted. He was targeted because of his color, because of the area that he was in at the time. For
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, many black people had a target on his back,
Right.
and
Right.
he
Right.
had a target in the media, right? So
Right.
the media tried to portray him as like this gang affiliated person, and
Mm-hmm.
this hardened criminal.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
they never talked about him going to science camp or getting good grades. The
Because
thought is like
that's not a sexy story, to be honest with you, right? Like it's
sure.
and I'm not using the word sexy, of course, like, but it's not an attractive
I know.
story to be like,
I
oh,
understand. I
this
understand.
guy, this guy, he went to, was a NASA, he was in a NASA program, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
from a very
Yeah.
young age. I mean, he was a kid, right? Like kids can be great and also still be kids at the same time. I was a kid. I made stupid mistakes all the time. Like there's been times my dad had to leave work, right, to come and get me out of trouble. So
Sure.
like kids are going to be kids. But it's difficult sometimes to like to bridge those points, right? Of someone that you have these two situations and how they're similar, but they're also very different. And by us being able to break that down, I feel like a lot of people are not they're either not able to, or they're too lazy to actually break that down, right?
Mm.
And I feel like those are the conversations that you and I have, or people like us that we have, so we can help other individuals not have to like. They got to do the work, but at the same time, we can like showing people how to do the work. You know what I mean? I feel like showing people how to do the work is what's the parable? A fisherman can teach. I could teach you how to fish. You can feed forever. Or I can feed you. Or I can fish for you. And you know what I mean? I can't remember the parable right now.
No. I think it was like if you teach if you feed a man a fish, like he'll never learn. But if you teach a man a fish, he can feed himself forever, or something.
Right. Exactly.
To that extent.
That's what I'm going with. You know what I mean? And I think that comes down to like media and politics as well. It's challenging, bro. Like there's so many images. There's so much stuff that we are just inundated. And it's like, how do you encourage someone to be invested in something that's so complex? Right? Like how do you show the value of how do you show the value of things that people don't necessarily have to find a value in? Like someone can live a quality life.
You personalize it. You personalize it. So,
I agree.
I'll say me from like a politician, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
the thought is like every time I approach somebody, they don't want to be inundated with policy.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
But I understand and I know that from being like an average person and a regular person, not just a policy wonk. So the thought is like my common goal is when I meet people in the community, try to find common ground.
Right.
So the thought is like, let's just say that you don't care about every issue, nor does every politician care about every issue.
Right.
You know what I mean? But so the thought is like, I find an issue that you care about, right? Start talking to you, and that's the difference, right? I'm not talking to you, but I'm asking you, for your input.
Talking with you.
And then you say, oh, well, this is something I want, right? Or this is something I see that I need. So, or this is something that needs to be changed, or a policy. So then we can engage on that level. So I think that that's important, is to like, for one, find common ground, commonality, and then, find out where you can work together. And not just with the neighbors. And the reason I say this is because in the city it's bipartisan. In this America that we're living is very hyper partisan, right? It's like, I'm at, a lot, not me personally, but people are at wits with their Democratic or their Republican neighbor. You know what I mean? But
it's all about the team.
It should, but the thought is it should never be that deep. right?
Right.
It should never be that deep. You guys should be able to find common ground, commonality as humans, you know,
Yeah.
first. And at the end of the day, you guys have political differences, and sometimes those will separate you. But you know, there's a lot more that could bring you together than these political differences.
So, you know, it's interesting you say that, because I wonder when, you know, when political like opinions start to really change. Because if you think about it, back in the day, things that people voted on are probably a lot less complicated. And so, like, I wonder, how did they receive that? Like, how did they receive the policy at that time? Right? It's like, oh, yeah, we're gonna put a, you know, this act in to make sure that you aren't overworking kids. Right? It's like, let me try to. I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to find a way to explain exactly what I'm saying.
I think I understand it as your question is like, as we progressed in time and we've
Right.
dealt with more complicated issues
Right.
that, of course, our past generations predecessors didn't.
Right.
The thought is how they felt at the moment when
Mhm.
these serious things were
Yeah.
coming forth.
Yeah.
So, so something to that extent, right?
Exactly. Yes. Thank you.
Well, I mean, I don't know, right?
Of course.
I
Yeah.
don't know, but I will say that, like, let's talk about the civil rights,
Okay.
right? Let's talk about the civil rights.
Mhm.
I think that, of course, you know, in today's day and age, we still have racism, we
Mhm.
still have civil rights that need to be fought for. But
Mhm.
I think that, like, we're in a different space than we were in the 50s and 60s.
Correct.
Not to say that, like, it's a complete, you know,
Yeah. Definitely.
180.
Yeah.
Not to say it's a complete 180, because, you know,
Right.
not 360, because we'll be back
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
where we started, but
Exactly. Yeah.
180. Not,
Right.
not to say it's a complete 180, but, you know, we're in a different space, right? Like,
Mhm.
I can't say this personally, but I felt like there was a lot more people, you know, just everyday people who were not taking BS, right? Like,
Mhm.
they were just sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mhm.
Like, in today's world, you know, I would say that there is more opportunities, there's more gigs. You know, it's a gig
Yeah. Yeah.
economy. You know what I
It
mean?
is. Yeah.
And, you know,
But
and I
see,
would
but
say,
it's challenging though with the gig economy, right? Is when do the gigs become the bigger, right? Because like it's kind of like that hamster on the wheel. You know what I'm saying?
what I think it's when you monetize your hobbies, right? So the thought is like, if for me, I decide that, like, my skill sets that I'm doing these gigs,
Mhm.
you know, can fund the lifestyle that I need. You know,
Right.
why not put 100% of effort, you know, into that? You know what I mean? Like, one of the
Mhm.
things that I tell a lot of my younger kids, you know, 'cause I still mentor, is like, monetize your hobbies,
Mhm.
right? Like, you know, this coding, or you cutting hair, or whatever else you do.
Mhm.
Figure out ways to monetize it,
But you know what
right?
though?
Because those are trades that you're building, and, you know, those are career paths or entrepreneurship in the future.
Absolutely. And I agree with you completely. I think on the other side of that, we think about monetization too much. And I feel like when we do that, we miss the opportunities to really connect dots and able to put that puzzle piece into the puzzle. But because we are very, you know, this is a financial life, man. Like, you know, you have to have money to do things. You know, there's an idea that you have to have money to be happy. You know what I mean? And I'm not gonna get into that philosophical. Well, you don't need enough to be happy. You just need I'm not gonna do that, because it's really real. You know what I mean? Like, you need money to be able to fund your dreams. You need money to be able to live, to be able to travel across the country, to be able to see what California looks like, because you never left your city or your state, right? Like, it takes money to do those things. At the same time, I think that we kind of have to become a little unselfish and look at how we can contribute to, right? Like, running for politics is yes, it's a, I'm using this word for the lack of, it's a very like bold thing, but it's also very like selfless. Because there's some politicians that get into a thing like, oh yeah, you know, I'm a salesman, I can make this happen, whoop, I can get here, I can do there. But there's somebody like, nah, I really want to get to the people. You know, like you said, people over politics.
I know. I mean, Clarence, you hit it on the nose. I
Mhm.
mean, for me, I'll tell you, I'm trying to remember what class we had together at Bowie. I
Oh
know,
shit.
I know we had Robertson's class, I believe. I'm
Yeah,
not sure if we
yeah,
ever had a Ross class.
yeah.
Uh,
Well, I had Dr. Rob, but I don't remember if we were in there together. But yeah, you
okay,
know what I mean? Yeah, I
okay.
definitely had Dr. Rob.
But one of the things is, I would say that, like, I never intended to be a
Hmm.
elected public servant.
Okay.
right? Like my goal when I started college, not Bowie, but
Mm-hmm.
college, because Bowie I was transferred, so that was where I finished.
You
But
mean both?
when
Yeah.
when I started was business, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
was international business, and it was for the purpose of I knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur,
Mm-hmm.
since middle school, high school, however young. I know it was really young. I was like, I want to be an entrepreneur. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be punching a clock for the rest of my
Right.
life. I
Right.
think I'm
Right.
too creative. I think I'm too creative for that. Right. And so I went into international business. One of the things I found out was I did better in my poli sci classes
Mm-hmm.
than international business. And
Okay.
why is that? Because the saying, if you find something you love and you do that, for the rest of your life, you never work a day in your life.
Yeah.
Right.
You
And
connect to it.
that was really politics for me and
Mm-hmm.
civics, because the thought is like there was never one right answer for politics or public service. It
Right.
wasn't
Right.
like
Right.
math or science. It was very much critical thinking and like,
Mm-hmm.
there's open to many different answers
And
depending on,
also because with poli sci, there's so many different. Like that's the reason why I love it is because I feel like it has all the social sciences into one.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
And one of my favorite things about political science is actually political thought and theory. Like I love political theory. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that was my favorite part of political science was just how people really thought about this whole process. Like I think that theory is interesting because it doesn't have to be practical, but it still gets the essence of what's happening, right? Like you have to understand a theory to become practical, in my opinion. Right?
Absolutely.
We could talk about the theory of brain surgery all day long, but it's not until somebody brain surgery gets into that and be like, oh yeah, that we start to educate. You know what I'm saying? We start to increase that understanding and education of whatever that topic is. And that's where the
Even
media.
the philosophy
Exactly.
part of it is what I love too. Absolutely.
Exactly. You know what I mean? Thoreau. You know what
Yes.
I mean? Henry David Thoreau. He's my guy. That's my guy. You know what I'm saying? Like Walden is it. That's it, right? Walden is one of the. I love that. I love that book because it gets so deep. It has him removing himself from society and then having a view in, right? Like removing yourself. And
Yeah.
I think sometimes with
That
political
double
science,
consciousness. It's that double consciousness,
exactly, being able to know, like being able to see both sides of the fence, but from afar. And I think sometimes, if people do that, we would understand things a lot better. These complicated and complex things. You know what I mean? Like we're now
Yeah.
talking about environmental justice in 2022. Well, I mean, we've been talking about it for a while, but that now is a thing. Environmental justice was not a thing in 1960 for sure. You know what I'm saying? Like people just didn't want to get their ass whooped. Right? That was the thing. Like to stop whooping our ass. We're not worried about how racist, these individuals. Well, again, those people were talking about those things, but the heightened it's become a lot more heightened because we have a lot more understanding because we're seeing different parts of the world. We're putting images to what we've been told. You know what I'm saying? So like,
Wow.
you know what I mean? What's that? What was
That's
that?
deep.
What's the pipeline? Remember that pipeline? Was it the XL pipeline where they was protesting it because they
Oh,
were trying.
yes.
Right. Like those things are important stories now, whereas though back then they probably wouldn't even think about it. Like, who gives a damn? You know what I'm saying? It's oil,
What?
it's money, it's going to create these things. But now you got people saying, no, man, like you're going to mess up a lot of things. Like there's a lot of sacred land here. There's a lot of history. You can't just do that. And you have to look at all of the variables. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times we only
Absolutely.
see some of it.
Well, today's politics, tomorrow's history, right? So,
Exactly.
we
Exactly.
did this is one of the things
Yeah.
we learned, and I would say that one of the things I learned while in public service was like
Mm-hmm.
you have to be selfless to be in it, right? Because a lot of times, someone told me the other day, politics is like a girlfriend that would never love you, or something, or
Yeah.
something like that. It was
Yeah. No.
something.
No. Yeah. No.
It
That's
was
deep.
something that they
That's
said,
deep.
and I was like, "Ooh, that's real." Because the thought is
Mm-hmm.
like, for you guys, you only see what we put on, right?
Exactly.
You don't see exactly sometimes the struggles
Mm-hmm.
behind closed doors. To get these these legislative wins,
Mm-hmm.
or you breaking down at home for
Right. Right. Right.
having to jump to multiple meetings and
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody's calling on you. So
Yeah.
the thought is like I tell people sometimes, like, you do have to understand that like these people aren't superheroes, right?
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
we don't expect them, to be superheroes, nor should we expect them to be, nor should we expect them to be superheroes
But
necessarily.
that's where it comes down to like understanding of really what the topic is and what the issue is, right? So when we really look at politics, it's like, yes, we know the show, right? We know that the what's
The showmanship, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we know the show. We know how people have to, you know, be in show business to a degree, because you have to be a salesperson, honestly, to a degree. But when removing all that aside, if you can see someone who is really about, you know, not just about helping people, but like they actually have a plan. There's maybe even a new thing. Like we should be able to tap into that and be able to see through the what's it the horse and pony. My little analogy is not on today, but you know what I mean. Like
The horse and pony show, yeah.
yeah, horse and pony show, yeah, right. You know what I mean. Like that's politics as well, right? There's some showmanship to it. You know what I'm saying? Like Ali was a mean boxer, mean as in like he was nice. At the same time, he had to be a showman to bridge that gap, right? And I think a lot of times people don't see that. They go, "Oh, Mayweather, he's an asshole. He's arrogant. He's in that." It's like, well, do you guys know why this is happening, right? Like, because if they don't do that,
he's a showman. It's hype. It's hype. It's the same thing with Conor McGregor and MMA. You know what I mean? Like how he rose so fast. It's because
so even with politics,
he's a social media sensation. So
exactly. So even with politics, sometimes, right? Like we have to kind of take away from. We got to kind of see through that, because to a degree, that's the game. You have to be audacious. You have to, you know, make certain things happen so people kind of turn the eye to you or the ear to you to get their attention. And I feel like there's a bit of showmanship in every industry. But I think when it comes to politics, it's a little different because it has such a negative connotation, right?
Yeah.
So being able to separate those two things sometimes I think is really challenging for people. And I think, you know, the showmanship, people should use it for good. I get it. Yeah, you got to be a little controversial. You know what I'm saying? Not you per se, but I'm saying this individuals in you know what I mean, in policy.
Of course.
Because again, as we know, if it wasn't for no media, they probably wouldn't be doing all those things. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for the media, they wouldn't have to do those things, right? But they have to.
God forbid, if there wasn't media, who would hold people accountable? Not just politicians, but corporations too. You know what I mean? Like corporations. So that's why we need free, independent media. You know, and we need more of that. You know,
and that's why I think people need to know how this machine actually works, right? Because you just put out a whole. Like, we need that, and you took that piece out. Chaos, right? What the New York Times, I believe their tagline is like, journalism in the darkness or something like that. Like it's basically saying like, yo, we are the light in the darkness, and that's how they become so. Their reputation precedes them. You know, the New York Times and you know other reputable publications. It's democracy dies in the darkness or something like that. That's the not Washington Post.
I've heard that, and that is fire.
Yeah, the New York Times, right? And so that goes to show about true journalism, and it's not about content creation. It's not about monetizing. And I think sometimes when we think about monetizing, we start to jeopardize the integrity of the thought, because we know how money works. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to do. Not sometimes. There's some people who feels though that you have to be unethical to be able to get to where you need to be, right? And I lost my train of thought right there, but yeah.
Hey,
but essentially, that's what we need media. But we need to be able to see. We need to be able to explain the value in media. We need to explain why these things are important, and help people understand that, right? Because again, I believe a more media literate individual makes a more media literate, like it makes a more accomplished citizen. Right?
Absolutely.
Because they're a better consumer. They're better, you know, their voting is going to be different. Like they're actually contributing in a very fluid and thoughtful way instead of just being there and pushing buttons.
Absolutely. And, you know, I will continue to use my voice for good.
Yes.
And the thought is like, you know, I do appreciate everyone for listening and following me, you know, along the years, but don't take what I say, you know, for face value. You do your own investigation, do your own research, become more involved, ask questions. You know, asking questions is the most powerful thing you could do sometimes. I know, I heard this is
it's interesting,
the most powerful thing you can do.
Right, because people say, oh, that's a dumbass question. You know, you have some people go, no question is dumb, right? But you got some people like, oh, that's a dumbass question. And it kind of dissuades people from maybe, you know, looking more into or trying to figure it out. They become very lazy, like, oh, you know, whatever. And they become uninvested. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I think that we have to start becoming more invested into the things that we have to be invested. It's kind of like growing up. I hated math. Man, listen. But
Yeah,
now there's
no,
individuals who
I'm
are
there with you.
right. But now there's people who are creating things for us to become more safe for our children who love math. Right.
Absolutely.
So I didn't truly start to see the value of those things until, of course, when I got older. But I think that, I mean, those moments right there is like keeps the train moving. Right. Is
Yeah.
realizing that there's other pieces that are moving that it didn't quite make sense to us, but it makes sense in the grand scheme. And how can I contribute to that without necessarily contributing to it? Right.
Whoa,
So
dude.
So it's kind of like, yeah, I can donate to a campaign all day long. But if I'm not telling other individuals, so say if I have money at influence, if I'm not using that influence to tell the people, yo, Martin's, pushing for this, he's pushing for that, he's working here, he's doing this, he's doing that, it doesn't mean anything. You know what I'm saying? It's like you're just giving money, but you're not actually showing the value of why you're giving them money. You know what I'm saying? And I think sometimes we because we're in this nature, we can throw money at problems sometimes and fix them. But when it comes to politics, it's a little different because it's more like homegrown, like it's rooted in us. You know what I'm saying? Like this political world that we're in, especially in this nation, is rooted in us from a very young age.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
And sometimes, I won't get on tangent, but yeah.
No. I would say for someone like you've seen me in college, so you could say, hey, I seen Martin leading,
Exactly.
way before, he wanted to run. Because I was trying to get people to campus to talk to students. You remember about the Green Party? And Dr. Arra, he was like, why are you inviting the Green Party? The Green Party is not going to win. And then I was like, hey, they might not win, but people should know the different systems that exist out here and the different candidates. I'll invite everybody,
Me and Dr. Arra, we got into an argument over, it was Hillary. I think it was Hillary and Jill Stein at the time. He was so pissed with me. He was like, "It's Hillary's time. We need a woman there." I'm like, "Yo."
I think I was with Jill too. So he was not here, and then I was with Bernie. We had a lot of combos.
Yeah. He was because it was Jill. It was Bernie. Wait, no.
Bernie had already, Hillary had already gotten a nomination.
Right.
Yeah. But I was saying the next time around it was Bernie.
Right. Okay.
Bernie, he still wasn't. He still didn't want to hear from Bernie.
Exactly. He was like, "No, I don't hear that."
He's the older, more conservative.
But it's very interesting, because like culturally wise, which is one thing that's one thing I truly love about Bowie. And I don't wish I'd ever rewrite my story because I'm similar to you. Like, I transferred into. So the love I felt
everything happens for a reason.
Yeah, man. Those last 2 years of my college experience was amazing. From Dr. Miller, Dr. Ra, like these men helped me understand, and even what was it, Dr. Davis? You know what I mean?
I had Dr. Lewis. You ever had Dr. Lewis?
Yeah, Dr. Lewis was dope.
Okay, don't forget Dr. Lewis. Yeah.
Can't forget that. Yeah, because like that was a very small department, but like it was very rich. Like me and Dr. Rob was sitting, or me, Dr. Rob, or Dr. Lewis be sitting in the office for hours just rapping, just talking.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's the same.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to make sure to respect your time, get you up out of here, but I wanted to ask you a couple quick questions. Yeah. We're gonna have you back, and hopefully I could be a guest on your show soon.
Course, man.
For anybody who doesn't know, he'll give you that information at the end. But a couple questions. Pepsi or Coke type of guy?
I'm not really into soda, but
that's fair. That's fair.
But growing up, I was a Pepsi kid. You know what I'm saying? I felt like Pepsi was the way to go. But I think as I became like an adult and I stopped drinking soda for so long, like having like a Coke or something is like, wow, like this actually tastes really good. I can separate the taste between a Coke and a Pepsi. So I'm Team Coke now. Growing up, I was Team Pepsi, but really I don't really have a dog in the fight. But yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm not a big soda drinker. I think it's just a great get to know your question.
It definitely is because
favorite hobby.
Can sleeping be one? No.
Can sleep.
Honestly, man, I think talking,
honestly, communicating. Hey, absolutely.
And so like I'm a communicator now. My quality of communication is amazing. My quantity of communication is what sucks, right?
Okay.
And so and that's my own personal thing of like just being like a introvert, whatever. But at the same time, I could still do this, and I think I could do it well. But yeah, so I would say maybe talking would be my favorite hobby.
The last thing, favorite superhero. I know you got a good one for me.
superhero or like, can we use villains as well?
I mean, hey, you'll be the first one who used a villain, so hey, I'm here for it.
So growing up, the Riddler was
okay.
He was right.
Sure.
He was
The
like
Riddler's pretty dope. Riddler's pretty
exactly.
dope.
And then with the movie that just came out, the Batman, you know what I mean? With them taking that sadistic kind of like view of the Riddler, just opened my eyes up to like, yo, I see why, you know what I mean, getting to the little geek shit. I see why the Riddler and why the Joker, why they together they can create havoc. You know what I mean? You got this super smart people, but you also got people that have no feelings and you know, like to be able to create chaos like that.
Of course.
You know what I mean? Like, of course, I don't think villains are great, but I think there's something to learn about a lot about villains because a lot of times villains come from a very unique and maybe great place, right?
Hey, I'm the first one to agree. Some of them have brilliant backstories. If you learn the backstories, well, thank you, Clarence, for joining me. My fellow BSU alum,
absolutely,
of course,
absolutely,
Bulldog. I appreciate you, man, and we will definitely connect soon.
Yes,
and,
yes,
you know,
please.
If I haven't told you, congrats. You know, on becoming a father.
You as well, brother.
You know, well, hey, it's been a little minute. I think you told me because I was still at Bowie when I had, you know. So
right,
I think
but see, I don't know if I knew that Bowie though. I feel like I didn't realize until like afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It
so
might not
still,
have been
man,
something I talked about every time. Or
and
something like that.
that's cool. But still, though, man, that's dope to know that you were still in school and you were multitasking. That's dope, bro. And
big time.
Exactly. And you know, I really pray for your balance. You know, there's a lot of things going on, like being a head of a household, running for politics, you know, run for office, and keeping your house in order is probably a very challenging thing. I mean, President Obama talked about it before, right? Of how challenging it can be. So just, you know, I'm proud of you. Keep your head up. Anything you ever need, you already know. You got the line to me. And I'm proud of you, kid. Like, I really am. And please, yo, like, stay rooted in the people as I know you will. But I just pray for that. You know what I'm saying? I pray for that support for you.
Hey, that means a lot to me, man. I appreciate it.
Kid. You already. All right, my dog.
All right, well, thank you guys. That was this week's episode. Tune in next week for People Over Politics. See you next Sunday.
All right, kid. Peace.
See you.